Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. I am SpraynPray1000, and today we are going to be talking about Bungie's, well, I almost said Bungie Entertainment, just Bungie's latest project on a brand new game that everyone's been talking about. One that has broken records in terms of being the most expensive game ever produced and advertised. We're going to talk about Destiny. So, Destiny is a first-person shooter, action RPG, and it's in a sci-fi setting. I'm trying to think of how else to describe it. Similar to, along the lines of Halo, which is also was made by Bungie up until Reach, at which point that was their final game. And when I say it plays pretty similarly to it, if you were to compare side by side how they looked, it's basically almost the same thing. So it definitely has the Halo feel to it, which is good. And the Halo aspects of it invade the gameplay and enhance it in other ways. On top of that, you also have RPG leveling up type of things that you would have in a game like Borderlands. And the game is also pretty much a shoot and looter, very similar to Borderlands. In fact, the party system and in general, the basic gameplay of it is a mix between, your Halo first-person style gameplay and the basic construct of the game is similar to Borderlands, in that you are thrown into an open world, sort of. You can free roam around with your friends. You shoot. You try to grab better stuff to upgrade your gear and upgrade your equipment and abilities. You have special abilities based on your class and what how you're basically speccing your character, so to say, and how you level them up. And basically, at its core, Destiny really tries to be sort of a combination of both of those. It basically tries to draw off the best of both of them and try to really put it also in a very heavily online environment. Now, it's a lot of fun. It really can be, especially when you get a group of friends together. You're doing story missions. You're doing basically dungeon raids or strike missions. You're doing raid missions with up to 6 people. And, it's a lot of fun when you and a bunch of other people team up to do stuff like this. Now, there's 3 different classes. You have the Titans, which are basically, your big, heavy warrior type guys. They're meant to take a lot of damage and be on the front lines. You have Hunters, who are, supposed to be sniping and using long-range tactics. And they have, other certain things. Like, they can use, throwing knives and stuff, thrown stuff. They can turn invisible and whatnot. And then you have Warlocks, which typically, throw grenades and use spells. And are more ranged in that regard, and every one of these characters has a couple different. Every one of these class archetypes has a couple different variants. So, for example, my class that I played, which was a Warlock, can turn into either a Voidwalker or a Sunsinger, and each one has a different. Well, I wouldn't say entirely different, but slightly different things that you can tweak about them. For example, Warlocks gain the ability to blink, which is basically a short-range teleport, whereas, Voidwalkers can short-range teleport, whereas Sunsingers can potentially revive themselves. There's a couple of different things that Sunsingers can do that's pretty cool, and same thing goes for Voidwalker, and I imagine the same must be, or could be said for Titans of both varieties and Hunters of both varieties. So the basic gameplay of Destiny is very fun, and it's definitely a lot of fun. Starting from nothing and upgrading a character and doing a lot of good stuff with them. But for me to really sit here and describe the gameplay, really the best thing I could just say is you have Halo. It feels a lot like Halo, and you have the Borderlands formula. Now, moving on, some of the things that I didn't like about Destiny. Okay. Some of the things I didn't like about Destiny is that the main story is very short, very out of the way, and it's basically, you can play through it once and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really much to come back to. The main story is also fairly short. It's not too long. I'd say it clocks in at maybe about 30 parts to 40 parts. I haven't finished rendering. It's probably going to clock in around somewhere around there. No more than 45 parts. So it's not too long, you know. And the other thing about the story is that while there are story to be, or, you know, story elements contained in various other missions, you know, like the strike missions or the raid, none of it is really as important or as, you know, vital to the general progression feeling that you get when you're playing through the story as you would from the normal story missions. So Destiny takes place in a futuristic Earth where basically humanity has experienced a golden age of galactic travel, and from this mysterious ball, this floating orb called the Traveler. They found it on Mars, and it it came to Earth, and it basically gave them a whole bunch of different powers using its magical light. However, the Traveler had enemies that followed it, and thus humanity was basically pushed near the brink of extinction, saved only by the Traveler and its light. And Destiny takes place where you play as a guardian, someone who can manipulate the light of the Traveler and can use it to fight off against this darkness that's invading and threatening humanity, which has been pushed into the last city on Earth. Now, you travel to 4 different planets in the game. On each planet, there's maybe about, I want to say 3, or not 3 is too low, excuse me, like 4, 5, 6 missions, all of which can be completed in fairly short time, especially if you have friends or anything along those lines. Destiny is a fairly short game, and that's its problem, in my opinion. And not only is it short, but once you basically have beaten the story, you've already pretty much hit like level 17, level 18, and the level cap is 20. So there's really nothing much really to do. It's not like most other games, you know, where the level cap is pretty high up there. The level cap is pretty low for Destiny. And I don't necessarily think that's a horrendous problem. It's just that you kind of run out of things to do fairly quickly. Now, once you do hit level 20, you have the ability to grind for higher pieces, for better, more improved pieces of armor called, they add this element to them called light. It's a stat that they have. Every piece of armor that you begin to find at level 20 has this stat called light. And essentially what it does is it boosts your level, it boosts your abilities because it raises your level above 20. So you can really raise your level high up, in my opinion, or well, not too high up, but basically you can boost it up to, I believe the max is 30, by grinding pieces of armor. Now, the problem here stems from that one particular word that I used, grind. Destiny really, really becomes a grind after level 20, and this was the big thing that Bungie and a bunch of other people said really helps distinguish Destiny as a positive quality. I think of it more as a negative quality. The game becomes very tedious and very repetitive and very boring at level 20 and beyond. Once you hit level 20, the game really changes because now it's no longer really so much about getting experience as it is constantly doing things to get the same kind of same reward, same armor. And really what it boils down to is you, depending on what armor you want to get, maybe a certain faction has your armor. You know, basically you have to do what you do in most MMOs, which is to grind for reputation points, grind for marks or some kind of item that will help you then buy the item. And then you go out, you buy the item, and then you put it on, you upgrade it by, you know, fighting alongside it and wearing it and collecting materials and whatnot. And you do this again and again and again. And part of the problem is that a lot of the there's not too many missions in Destiny. You know, on the free roam missions, which are the patrol missions, they are basically, there's only like maybe 10 or 12 of them per planet. And that might sound like a lot, but when you're really, you know, they're easily completed in, I'd say, 2-3 minutes. Some of them are, you know, just your generic kill so many enemies and then you're done. Others are kill certain enemies that drop certain items, you know, pick them up and collect so many of them. Some are literally just go from point A to point B and then, you know, examine an item somewhere. You know, there's nothing too hefty here, nothing, you know, too outlandish either. And the quests sometimes aren't any different. You know, the quests are pretty simple. You know, go here, kill a certain person, and especially the bosses. You know, especially on some of the higher difficulties, I really think they could have done a few more things with the bosses to really help diversify the gameplay, other than look at the boss, hold left trigger, and squeeze right trigger until dead, you know, taking cover and reloading as needed, dealing with mobs and ads. Now, what I will say is I do like the fact that the game runs at a steady frame rate. which is more than I can say for Borderlands. Borderlands tends to fluctuate, especially when you have a lot of enemies on the screen. Destiny does a pretty good job of keeping track of all the items on the floor, all the ammo pickups. Nothing really disappears. All the item drops that you get, and all the enemies running around. Destiny does a pretty good job, at least on the PS4. I can't speak for any other console because I haven't played on any other console. The PS4 does a good job of keeping up with all the stuff that's happening, and I do like that. Also, the presentation of Destiny is absolutely amazing. The soundtrack is basically almost unparalleled. 90% of other games you play will not have a soundtrack as extremely good as this game. And the graphics of this game just look amazing. And the detail on the creatures and the enemies is pretty good. I like that. So the presentation of this game gets an A out of me. It's a really good. It's very well done, and I give Bungie a lot of props for that. However, ultimately, I kind of have to take some points away from them in terms of the story and the gameplay. There's very little to be done. For a game of this caliber, for a game that a lot of people are saying is an MMO, I disagree that it's an MMO. I think it's just more of a very forced online Borderlands kind of game. An MMO, in my opinion, has a lot more player-to-player interaction and a lot more things to do. In Destiny, in the average MMO, just take World of Warcraft, for example. There's stuff like auction houses, you can trade items, there's various skills for you to upgrade and unlock. You can make your own items, you can do a whole bunch of stuff in that game. You can whisper to players, you can yell and talk to players, you can speak normally, you can talk in group chats and city channels, and just such a degree of stuff. There's various factions you can all do stuff for, way more than Destiny's amount. And there's always expansions that add a ton of stuff, level caps that go up high, a lot of skill trees that are way more in depth than anything Destiny does. And frankly, a lot of that is missing from Destiny. You cannot trade items to someone. So let's say, for example, and this does happen, you get an item drop, okay? And typically, if an item drops for you, especially at higher level or lower levels, appear to you as something called engrams, which you take to someone at the main base of the game, which is called the tower. They will decrypt them, which is basically turn them into an item you can use. Now, they did have a patch to correct this a few days ago, so I'm glad that I held off on the review. I'm reviewing something else other than the base release game. But basically, you can decode an item into something you can't equip on your class. So you only have two choices at that point. Destroy it, and get the bare materials for it, or you can store it in your vault for another character. Now, frankly, I think that that's quite annoying because Destiny, up until then, does a great job of only giving you items you can wear for your class, which is good considering the game's length and the fact that, the game is very short, and that would be very annoying otherwise because item drops aren't all that common. Now, the problem with that is also, you can only get these rare things from actually doing long, annoying, boring quests. And the reason why they are so annoying and long is because the monsters take so long to kill, and you have to find and organize a team of people that are willing to cooperate with you. And to do all that and get something that you can't even wear at the end of it is like screen punch worthy. That is just unbelievably annoying. Now, on top of that, my computer just flared up, excuse me. On top of that, Destiny does a great job of keeping up with all that stuff, and I really do like the fact that there's a couple of things to do, but once you kind of hit 20, you might want to grind a few light levels, but unless you're, completely in love with this game and you just cannot, stop playing it and cannot put it down, you're probably going to get bored. I mean, the variety of it kind of dies out after a certain point, and the originality and freshness of it kind of goes away. I mean, the presentation still feels great, but it feels like they're just presenting you with the same repetitive grind again and again. The challenges, which appear every day, are pretty good. They help to add a little bit of diversity, but basically they turn into your dailies, the stuff that you do every day. You log in for maybe an hour or two to do them, and then that's really it. Now, I mean, that's not to say I didn't have fun with this game, but this isn't exactly the game I'd want to come back to again and again and again. And it's definitely not the game that I would want to keep playing for 10 years. That's right. Apparently Bungie has some plan to keep this game running for a decade. And I unfortunately just do not, like, that does not seem appealing to me to do this again and again and again. I did not even play World of Warcraft for 10 years. I played it only for something like 3. And this game has, quite frankly, maybe like a tenth of the content that World of Warcraft has to offer. I mean, sure, there's a lot of similar quests, and World of Warcraft does get repetitive, but World of Warcraft typically had a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different areas to explore, different skills to upgrade, crafting, player-to-player interactions, and stuff that Destiny just doesn't have. You only have 4 different ways to interact with characters using like an emote list, which are the D-pad buttons. You can dance, you can sit, you can wave, and you can point, and that's it. That's all you have. Of course, you can talk to people in your fire team, but you can't like interact with people in the game world, and etc. etc. And there's a large aspect missing. There's no auction house, so you can trade off some of these items. You can't trade with people standing 2 fucking feet away from you. There's no option to do any of that stuff. Now, what I do like is the PvP. The PvP is essentially Halo with a twist, because now everyone in Destiny isn't just a Spartan. They're a Guardian, and they have superpowers that they can use. So, for example, after you've been killing enough enemies or after enough time has passed, every character can use a super. So, for example, Warlocks, Voidwalkers can throw gigantic orbs. Titans can jump in the air and smash down on their opponents. Well, that's one type of Titan. The other type can deploy a shield, which will help the team. Certain hunters can pull out knives and insta-kill people. And I did like that. I did like the way that they kind of seamlessly integrated the single player, which is a co-op shooter, with the multiplayer, which is PvP. I did like that. I did think they do a really good job on that. And also, I can't really compliment the strike missions in the same facet, because the strike missions are just more the same old usual. And in fact, a lot of these missions are just simply replaying various areas you've already played through in the campaign. They have a whole thing going on right now that's the Queen's Wrath, which is, instead of doing new missions for this new faction, you just replay older story missions on, with a few different modifiers, just like Halo. And in fact, a lot of the enemies have very annoying tendencies, just like in Halo. So, frankly, this game I really consider to be the jack of all trades, but the master of none. This game really does a good job of combining all these different elements. However, as of right now, there's not a lot of content. You're going to run out of stuff to do in about, maybe, I want to say 12 hours. And then it turns into a repetitive grind for like the next days, the next couple of days while you try to get the best armor. And frankly, it's not the kind of game that really I'd want to play. I want to sink a bunch of hours into. So ultimately, what would I give Destiny? Now, the thing is, before I give my score, I really just want to say I am glad that I did sit down and I did do a little bit more of this grinding. I actually have a verdict of this game ready to roll prior to this one. I recorded it when I was light level 22, and my friend said, no, you should play more of the game. You haven't played more of the game. And I did. And my verdict really hasn't changed. I just want to throw that out there because a lot of people said that I hadn't played the game enough. Frankly, what do you want me to say? After 20, it becomes a repetitive grind. I'm not sure what exactly has massively changed or improved in the 12 to 20 hours I've spent grinding for better pieces of armor, because literally that is all you do. You grind, oh, you get a piece of armor that you could potentially wear. You look at it, okay, are the numbers bigger on the right-hand side than the left? If not, throw it away. If so, put it on, upgrade it until you find the next piece of armor that you really like, that fits that play style, that's better. Rinse, repeat, and, eventually you will probably get to the point where nothing is better. There's eventually going to be that point where your play style is comfortable enough for you. But sadly, that is something that there's not a lot of story. Like, if there was a whole after campaign, you know what I mean? Like a whole, nothing, literally stuff you could not do prior, you know what I mean? Not just like the raid and a couple of strikes, that are high level. I'm talking like a whole extended other campaign, then I would do that. But for $60, what I got here was really not worth that, in my opinion. For $60, I expected a lot more, and I did not get that. Especially from Bungie, and especially from the most expensive video game project ever. For $60, I got way more out of GTA 5, and that's the second most expensive video game project ever, behind this one. So, I was disappointed on a lot of different fronts for Destiny. I was also surprised on a couple different, but not nearly as many as I was disappointed on. So, ultimately, I know I just said this already, but ultimately, what would I give Destiny? I'm going to give it a 78 out of 100. It's good, it's solid, it's steady, it's alright. But the problem with it is just simply the fact that it gets repetitive and boring after a certain point. Nothing really changes. Now, of course, there's DLC coming, which is going to add new stuff, but I'm going to be honest, for 60 bucks, it seems to me like they really could have put out a lot more, just for the base game. Like, it would be unfair to compare this game on the same basis as the base game of World of Warcraft. I refuse to do that, just simply because of the sheer amount of content and the fact that, okay, you have to pay 15 bucks a month, but World of Warcraft is constantly adding new stuff, and don't even get me started on other MMOs. So for $60, it's not really too great of a deal. Even though it's high quality, it's not that good. In fact, the beta was essentially a quarter of the game's story. So the story was pretty throwaway in this game, in my opinion, which is sad because it feels like it was very well thought out and they had a lot going for it. And that's pretty pathetic in my opinion. I think Bungie really dropped the ball after, Reach, after your Halo 3, games that I was really impressed by. This seems to be like another game that I'm kind of on, like Halo ODST. So, unfortunately, this is Bungie's even numbered game, and I didn't like it that much. I liked the first and third games I played by them, which were Halo 3 and Reach, and this game is just kind of up there with ODST, like, it's good only because it builds off of something that was already good, namely Halo 3. I do like, the whole shoot and loot aspect combined with, co-op gameplay, and it is fun to play with friends, so if you have people you want to play with, by all means, go right ahead, get this game. You guys will all enjoy it. However, on the flip side, even with friends, it gets repetitive and boring. So, 80, you wish. 78, sorry guys, but, Destiny was not that good in my opinion. It's pretty lukewarm. And it's something I might play a couple of times in the future. I doubt I'll buy the DLCs for it because, I don't think it was a good deal. And we'll see where we go from here. So, hopefully maybe Bungie adds, they realize that they don't have a lot for this game and they add a shit ton of stuff to it. But otherwise, I'm frankly kind of done with it. I'm moving on to other stuff. So, alright. That was good. I already have another verdict to do, so I will probably stop this video and do the next one. So, thank you guys. Have a good day. Hopefully this was a little bit informative. If not, let me know if there's anything I can clarify in the comments or anything. And I will talk to you guys later. So, have a good day and enjoy.